My amplified unit, we are on location, straight up audio formatted podcast, tried and true, amped up with BC for Monday, May the 22nd, 2023. But just because we're out in the world does not mean you get a day off. No, you must remain amplified. Because BC coming at you with some big topics, man. We got a packed, stacked, jacked show coming at you on today's Amped Up podcast. A huge return to Monday Night Raw. It was possibly spoiled by this individual. We will talk about it. Or was this just a massive mistake by this individual? We discuss it coming up in this very podcast. And we talk Sasha Banks, Mercedes Mone, banking on herself and finally enjoying what she loves so much. And then it all comes crashing down last night. Mercedes Mone with a massive injury that is going to keep her out for a long time. An audible was called and a new champion was crowned. And it was not Mercedes' night. What a tragic night that was supposed to be celebratory. We talk about everything that went down last night, and we give a big salute to an AEW superstar that defeated Banks last night, Mercedes Mone. And again, something bigger than the match itself is Mercedes' health, and that leads us to an even bigger story. In the wrestling world right now, should the women tone it down with all of the injuries that are racking up? We're going to go over it all, from the Liv Morgans to the Dakota Kais to now Mercedes, recently Shayna and Ronda. And the list goes on and on. We'll talk about, should they tone it down or should they tone it up? Are they doing exactly what they should be doing? They're going all out, and just like the dudes, at times there's going to be injuries. You just don't fall back into complacency. You don't fall back into security. You go full throttle, and you rock out. You take the risk. You take the chances. It's a big discussion right now in the wrestling world with Mercedes' injury last night. Anyway, a lot to talk about on that front as well. And we're going to talk Nick Khan, the CEO of WWE. He recently made headlines with how he is talking about Amazon Prime and possibly moving SmackDown over to Amazon Prime. The only available date that we see would be Saturday, which means SmackDown would be head-to-head with AEW's new Saturday show, Collision. The only collision would be these two conglomerates smashing each other in the mouth on Saturday night. SmackDown versus Collision. What would you guys be watching? Would you be watching Collision or SmackDown? You know, you say it's just chatter now. Don't be shocked. Very much sooner rather than later, if you have SmackDown versus Collision, the way that Nick Khan is speaking about it, the way that Fox is talking about not renewing the deal when it is up next September. Because Fox is telling you in so many ways that they are not going to strike a new deal with Nick Khan and WWE. They're not going to strike a deal if it is a substantial rights fees increase. Nick Khan is already telling you he wants absolute significant rights fees increases with SmackDown and Fox. So they are at a crossroads, no pun intended. Now that's on SmackDown's front. On the flip side, what we're going to talk about in today's podcast is Nick Khan and what he is saying about Peacock. What Nick Khan is saying about the cock. And what he is saying is not too promising for their next deal. In fact, it is pretty obvious that there's not going to be another deal with Peacock in the streaming service. And this is exactly what BC said about Tony Khan and how he's got to be careful right now in the deal that he strikes with Turner Networks, Warner Discovery, because it might seem like, oh, I'm getting a lot of money and I'll give you the entire AEW package. But if your business ends up becoming really hot in a year, 2 years down the line, and you start seeing that you got taken to the shaft, you literally got robbed under the table, and Warner Discovery made out like bandits, you're going to wish you had that deal back. That's the situation that Nick Khan is saying he is in right now. He thinks they made a horrible deal, and he is trying to get out of it now, not waiting till 2026. So not only could SmackDown go over to Amazon Prime Saturday nights against Collision, but you could see WWE pay-per-views, the premium live events, the package of WWE Network off of Peacock. And then what do? Does Endeavor create their own streaming service? Are you going to see WWE on Disney Plus? We talk all about it coming up. It is a packed, stacked, jacked, amped up podcast with BC. Take your beverage, hopefully a nice big double shot coffee, down that shit, come on back, and let's get amplified. Taking down my fourth coffee of the morning. Let's get this started, man. I just realized that was a packed teaser cold open, man. I give you guys a lot of info in that. We didn't even go over the actual topics yet, man. That was supposed to just be the teaser. But let's get right into it. Guys, the biggest story here is going to be Mercedes Mone. You're going to be hearing a lot about this throughout the day, depending on when this podcast can be uploaded to you guys. Right now, it's very early on a Monday morning. I hope to be coming at you guys later this evening as well, maybe even a live stream. But whether I am back in the tri-state or whether I am still out in the world, I would like to give you guys another. So this should be a double dose of amplification today. So stay subscribed and notified, obviously. If you're notified with that little bell, you guys will be the first to know when I upload or go live. Do me a favor too, smash that up, help out the algorithm. That'll truly be appreciated by the amplified, man. I know there were some super thankers in recent uploads, recent podcasts. I'm going to get to you guys on the next upload that we do, whether that's a live stream or not. My super thankers down below. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for the coffees. That does not go unappreciated, trust me. But I hope to come live with you guys later this evening or at least another upload. But this is very early right now as of this recording. So by the time you get this, maybe there'll be new information. But it appears now that Mercedes Mone has indeed broken her ankle. It appears that it's much worse than a sprain. Or if it is, it's the worst level of sprains, because she was literally carried out of the match last night. So bad was this injury that there was an audible called. Now, let me set this up for you. This was New Japan Pro Wrestling, or at least the Strong Women's Championship. This was going to crown the first ever Strong Women's Championship. There was a little mini tournament held beforehand, and it came down to Willow Nightingale, which is the AEW wrestling talent. Willow, that's right. If that name sounds familiar, you have seen her on AEW television. And she was taking on Mercedes Mone, formerly known as Sasha Banks. Now, upright, I don't have to tell you this. It's pretty common knowledge. Sasha Banks, Mercedes Mone, was supposed to win this tournament and collect that championship. We are all pretty much 99.99% sure of this, like a Clorox wipe. There was a 0.001 chance that Willow was supposed to win this, and that would only be because Mercedes' contract has basically just been a series of extensions. So that would be the only reason not to. Because Mercedes has already eaten a big L with a short title reign on her endeavors into the indie scene or New Japan Pro Wrestling / Stardom. She cannot start collecting L's. It would be too rapid. So you got to believe she was going to win this tournament, especially against Willow, and I have much respect for Willow. But what ended up happening in this match is the opposite, and tragedy unfortunately struck Mercedes Mone. Apparently, at first glimpse of this, because I was not able to catch this live, it looked like Willow was... I thought originally Willow just pushed Mercedes. They were up on the turnbuckle. Mercedes was basically second rope on the outside. And it looked like Willow was just pushing Mercedes off the rope and onto the outside. It just basically looked like Willow launched Mercedes off of that second rope and she went crashing down onto the outside floor. But upon a second look, then it looked like Mercedes just launched herself and tried to do like a snap mirror of Willow going into the top turnbuckle or top rope, maybe, right? So she caught herself dropping and turned it into an offensive move. But then I heard a report, several reports back this up, that it was a code red attempt. So again, I was not able to see this live as it unfolded. So I'm going to go with reputable reports because it was more than one, that it was an attempted code red. Now, the video that I saw doesn't look like it was a code red attempt because Mercedes was just being launched the other direction onto the outside, cascading to the floor in a weird position. So did Mercedes just... was it just a botch, unfortunately? Or was that just planned and she landed awkwardly? It was a bad landing, and it just didn't look like a spot that was necessarily needed. So I got to believe that this was just botched somehow. But more research will be done. But that's not the point. How it happened, that's what happened, all right? She was up on the second rope with Willow, and she got launched to the outside and fell very badly. And what we think is a broken ankle, the way that the match was audibled immediately. Mercedes gets back into the ring. She is power-bombed twice by Willow, and Willow picks up the awkward victory. I mean, Mercedes was just like laying there. I mean, there wasn't even movement. She was just probably happy to... You watch her legs, and her legs are just kind of in the air even after the pin. She was probably happy to have the leg elevated. As somebody who has broken his ankle, I broke my ankle many years ago in football, and it's one of the biggest pains you could absolutely have. You can get jumped by 45 people in a bar room and get beaten badly, and it is not going to hurt like a broken ankle. The pain, it's every single fiber in your body goes right to that spot if you break your ankle. I can't even explain it, guys. It is a pain like no other. And you just have to elevate it to try to alleviate any type of pain. So that's the first thing I thought of when her legs just stayed in the air like that. And then she was, so the audible was called immediately. Back into the ring less than a minute later. 2 power bombs, awkwardly done as well, by the way. Because Mercedes at that point has one leg, 1 foot. And she gets power bombed twice. And then she is immediately taken out, carried out to the back. We are hearing that Tamina Snuka was backstage. Tamina Snuka backstage and actually escorted Mercedes to the hospital with the medical team. So that's good support for Mercedes to have somebody like Tamina there. Of course, former members of Team Bad with Trinity, Naomi. So that's really cool. If I can confirm that, I will have that for you in the later podcast that I hope to put up later this evening. But from what I am hearing, Tamina was backstage, escorted her to the hospital. Mercedes did send out a statement afterwards. It was actually from either the hospital bed or right in the trainer's room after the matchup when she was taken to the back. But it's a picture of her, or like a little bit of a gif, like I can't believe this has happened. And Mercedes says, and I quote, "Wrestling, 3 exclamation points. Phew, not how I dreamed for tonight to go. I'm so sorry, and I love you guys so much. I'm gonna heal, and I'll be back better than ever," with a blue heart emoji, end quote. So she says sorry to the fans. She never has to do that. Mercedes Mone is just one of those wrestlers who's just better than most, if not every single female superstar. But if not every, then most. I say this all the time. She's the common denominator for everybody's best match, or at least one of their best matches. And I know, like a broken record, I say this all the time. But people always like to say, "Nah, basically." I'm like, what do you know? Just don't disagree just to disagree. Or if you don't like Mercedes or Sasha, that's fine. But don't lie to yourself. I mean, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Io Shirai or Io Sky, Zelina Vega, can be a Carmella. It doesn't matter. Their best or one of their best matches in their career all have one common denominator, and that's Mercedes Mone, Sasha Banks. So it's not just an opinion. I mean, you cannot like her at all. That's totally fine. That's your prerogative. But when you're talking about who is a really good wrestler, Mercedes is at the top of the list, or at least sharing that. Maybe I'll give you a few extra names. But that's what's sad, is that WWE never saw that in her, never saw her as the top person, never saw the talent that was right in their face, blinding them. And maybe it blinded them so badly that they just missed it, or just for whatever reason did not want to give her the rocket and just wanted to keep that on Charlie Flair, or the new flavor of the month, for 17 different pushes, Lacey Evans. And that's not even shade. But all of these pushes, and they got that company nowhere, whether it's a Lacey Evans or Charlie Flair in her 14 title reigns and 27 different pushes, 86 different heel face turns, and Charlie Flair is still no better off with the crowd. Yet Mercedes Mone never got anything. 6 title reigns, maybe. 3 of them were within fucking 82 days of one another, and it was just to give it back to Charlie 3 more times to patent her stats to get closer to her father's 16 title reigns. That's the only reason Sasha got it 3 times in 82 days. You take those away, what? She's a 2 to 3 time champion tops, while Charlie's got 14. You know, you look at Trinity. She has 2 championships in 10 years with WWE. Charlie's been there 8 years with 14 to 2. And you're telling me there's not an agenda? You're telling me Charlie Flair is that much better than Naomi Trinity? Bullshit. Trinity's more athletic. Trinity's actually a better wrestler. If you actually go pound for pound, move for move, how is natural selection? Or a figure 8 leg lock, or a moonsault that never lands. How is that any better than anything Trinity does in that ring? Especially not Mercedes. We can have this conversation in circles. We get nowhere. So it's sad that we're even in this place where Mercedes had to leave that national platform and find her love for wrestling again somewhere totally different, where a lot of fans don't get to see her in action, where she's getting a broken ankle, or at least damn near close. We'll find out the exact injury within the coming hours, and I'll have that for you guys later this evening, hopefully. But however severe this injury is, however bad, it's a shame that it's in a match at an event that a lot of fans of hers just weren't able to see, or are hearing this maybe for the first time in this podcast, that their favorite wrestler just got injured pretty badly and was not crowned champion last night. You know, this has to be done when it's absolutely asinine to me. Well, meanwhile, Charlie will come back in a week, 2 weeks, but by SummerSlam, and she'll win her 15th championship, probably on the day she comes back, just like she won her 14th. Against, who was it? Ronda Rousey, I believe. Anyway, guys, that's the statement of Mercedes after the injury. Phew, not how I dreamed for tonight to go. Or she says wrestling. Phew, not how I dreamed for tonight to go. I'm so sorry, and I love you guys so much. I'm gonna heal, and I'll be back better than ever. Heart emoji. So, again, we're hearing that Tamina was there backstage, escorted her to the hospital. We hope that is the case. So she has her people there. We know Trinity was not able to be there. She has current plans and workings with Impact Wrestling. Now, this is obviously, I know this is secondary. The health of Mercedes is top. Nothing even close, but this will affect, obviously, the plans for AEW. There was a big, massive chance that Mercedes was showing up to AEW in the near future. Most likely it would have been the Collision show. A lot of people thought Double or Nothing, and that's because she does have a lapsed contract that she is working through extensions. It seems like a series of extensions, and she has expressed interest in working with AEW, just waiting for, in her words, and I quote, the call from Tony Khan. So whether that call was made or not, if you are putting together a Collision show, and you may or may not have somebody like CM Punk, if you can get a women's wrestler like Sasha Banks, Mercedes Mone, you just became bona fide. You just became legit on day one. If anybody was weary about Collision, and you hear that Mercedes Mone is showing up, and she's going to be a part of this show, you're watching Collision. Especially if Nick Khan, the CEO of WWE, Vincent Kennedy, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, if they're all going to bring WWE SmackDown over to Saturday nights to compete with Collision, you would love to have somebody like Mercedes. In the big plan that we were hearing, man, the big match that internally Tony was, now this was before any call. We can't even confirm that there was any conversation between Mercedes and Tony. I want to make that clear. But word around the campfire was the match that Tony really would want was Jade Cargill versus Mercedes Mone, TBS Championship. Now, does that mean that is just the biggest opponent for Jade Cargill to date, and Jade still takes care of Mercedes, beats her, and retains her championship? Jade Cargill just recently celebrated her 500th day as TBS champion, and she is currently undefeated. So would Mercedes, if she isn't long-term with AEW, would she go in there, get a good lump sum of cash, and do the job to Jade Cargill? Or would Tony Khan bring in Mercedes to be the one to take care of Jade Cargill and actually defeat her, end her undefeated streak, and take the TBS championship? Again, no plans that we are aware of. That is just the match that internally we heard Tony Khan really wanted and Jade Cargill was pushing for. So my point is, guys, any talk of that, and I know that discussion was starting to heat up a little bit and BC was actually becoming intrigued. That's unfortunately put to bed, especially if this is a broken ankle. You're talking 6 to 9 months up front, man, depending on the severity. Like mine was really bad, for instance, several different breaks in that ankle. And I was literally told that I was going to be out for like a year. I think I came back 6 months, maybe 5 months later. I was already doing drills against Doc's orders, but that's just BC. I'm just always amplified 24/7. That's probably not the most healthiest thing to do. I don't recommend it. But Mercedes also strikes me as somebody who might not follow the doctor's orders to a T. So if they tell her 6 to 9 months, maybe she's training in 4 or 5. I don't recommend it, again. But it's going to be many months is my... That's the point here, guys. So any AEW debut that you guys thought was coming anytime this year, that's been called off. That looked like a really bad injury, enough that Mercedes could not finish the match. An audible was clearly called as less than a minute later, 2 power bombs and an odd pinfall. Odd power bombs and just as bizarre pinfall. But I guess not as bizarre if you knew that this was a severe injury. And once she got carried out, everybody at that point knew that this was not story. This was legit. She's fucked up. And she says, I will heal and I will be back better than ever. Now, guys, the other topic here, and we wish Mercedes the very best on this channel. If you're newer subscribers, whether you like her or not, love her or not, I totally get it. That's in the eye of the beholder. No shade if you don't like her. But this channel is a pro Sasha Banks channel, pro Mercedes Mone, because we know her talent, we know her worth, and we know, unfortunately, she hasn't seen that yet. Now, this brings up a huge conversation, man. A lot of people saying, man, all these women's injuries lately, they need to tone it down. BC says not so fast. First of all, what are people talking about? Okay, we get it. Shayna Baszler recently coming off of an injury. Ronda Rousey recently coming off an injury. Liv Morgan currently with a pretty bad shoulder injury. So we wish the best for Liv Morgan for sure. Dakota Kai is currently dealing with an undisclosed injury that is suspected to be even worse than Morgan's. We're still trying to find out the exact details on the injury. But that's Dakota Kai, Liv Morgan, Ronda, Shayna. So now fans are going, well, all of these strings of injuries, a shitload on the independents, guys. That's a list longer than Chris Jericho's, his list of 1,001 moves, beating Dean Malenko. You guys remember that in WCW? They went to commercial break, and Chris Jericho had a list of like over 1,000, because Dean Malenko used to call himself the man of 1,000 holds. So Chris Jericho, I have 1,001. And he goes to commercial. We come back, and he's still going over every move. Chris Jericho was hilarious back in the Nitro days, man. And of course, you just made the list. But any list that Jericho can give you is not longer than the list of female talent on the indies that are currently injured. And again, it adds to the conversation. It's like fuel to the fire. Should women be toning it down? This is all unnecessary. Well, my counter to that argument, all right? Or not even argument, just discussion. My counter to that would be, well, why is it okay when all the men get injured and we just say, it's not ballet? You know, yes, they should tone it down, man. And BC's the first one to say all these flips and these dives, they're not needed. You're injuring yourself stupidly. But that's not really the discussion long-term when somebody gets injured, male-wise, right? We just say, oh, man, it's not ballet. They'll be back better than ever. You got to give them credit, man. They're going full throttle. We don't want them to hold it back. But when the females get injured, oh, what are they doing? That's stupid. It's not needed. And we stick to that notion, right? A week later, we don't go, oh, I'm glad they just gave it the effort. I'm glad they took the risk. No, we just say, oh, the women need to calm it down, man. It's not needed. But BC would say, no, I'm loving that they're going all out, no pun intended, to AEW. But they're going all out with their matchups now. I'm seeing more physicality now more than ever. That is needed for the believability and the reality factor when we are watching a women's match especially, because ratings will tell us, live event, live crowd reaction will tell us the same thing that we've been seeing for years. There's a disinterest with women's wrestling, especially here in the US. There's just a disinterest. People will use that as the bathroom break. It's usually some of the lowest rated segments. And that's even with good storylines at times. So where does that stem from? One of the biggest things is believing in what we're watching. People say Bray Wyatt in the Supernatural. I can't believe it, but that's bullshit. He shows you he's the top rated segments even when he's wrestling. It's because you still believe this shit. Bray Wyatt could do voodoo on somebody. Voodoo! And you believe it because the character, it coincides. And it's so well done on TV. You're captivated. And even if you say you don't like it, guess what the ratings tell us? The ratings tell us you still watched. Whereas if you say you don't like the women's wrestling, the ratings tell us that, yeah, you were right. You called it and you actually backed up your words. You didn't view it. Because the ratings tell us that. We see your reaction in the crowd. You're not even given a golf clap during or after the match. We understand that. So that's the disconnection, I'd say, right? There's no connection. When you get more physical, like for instance, I'll give Charlie Flair huge credit when everyone says, oh, I just always bash Charlie Flair. No, Ashley Flair is a sweetheart probably in real life. The booking of Charlie Flair has been atrocious. But what they did at WrestleMania, Rhea Ripley and Charlie, that's the matches we need to see, man. Take it to the next level. Show people that they need to tune in. Don't give them the option to want to tune in. Need to, right? That type of physicality. That's what Ronda should be doing. Stop just playing wrestling and be Ronda Rousey on a wrestling platform. Hopefully that makes sense. Shayna Baszler, same thing. Xia Li, there's no reason Xia Li should be sitting at catering or staying at home waiting for a phone call to be used. Xia Li could be like the Brock Lesnar of the women's division. That's how badass and believable and realistic Xia Li is. Most of the audience doesn't even know who Xia Li is today, and that's sad. You can keep going down the list, man. Physicality. There's a way to do this, and you're not going to injure your opponent all the time, by the way. In fact, if you look at these injuries, some of them are just freak accidents or shit that just went awry. It's not even the physicality. Hopefully that makes sense. I mean, you go back to some of these injuries and it's the same thing that happens with the dudes when you're just going all out. You're going full throttle, man. You're putting together the best wrestling match for you. Forget the fans for a second. When you go back through the curtain, you know that you just gave it 110% and you feel good about that match. And even if you're injured, you know you went out top tier, top status. When I walked off that field, it was head held high. I didn't hang my head because I knew I gave it my all on that play in that game. I did everything I could, even to the point of breaking my own body. And when I saw Mercedes get carried off last night, at first she held her head high. You know, she had this prestige, like this is what I love, and I went out doing what I loved. But then there was a moment where the severity of the situation finally hit her as she was being carried off, and she actually held the guy around his neck who was carrying her off, and she kind of hung her head a little bit, and I was like, no, don't do that. No. Nothing to hang your head on. You gave it your all to the point where you snapped your ankle. That's the break sometimes, literally and figuratively. But to tell these ladies to tone it down, to hold back. No, if they were doing some stupid flippity dive moves all the time, I get it. And you say, well, BC, if it's true and she was about to deliver code red from the ropes, from the turnbuckle, that's not needed, BC. Well, but if you go back and look at the injury, the injury wasn't actually during the move. That's the thing. Willow was just on the ropes and Mercedes was on the other side, maybe getting ready to deliver it. But you're telling me that she just can't climb ropes? That was a freak accident. I don't feel that they should tone it down, guys. In this discussion, I will tell you wholeheartedly, I love what they're doing. The increase of injuries you never want to see, but that tells me something massive. That tells me these ladies are taking it to another level finally. They're putting women's wrestling on their own backs instead of resting it on the fans and the company and the suits and ties and the promoters and hoping for the best. These ladies are saying no. Backstage, they're already discussing and they've already came to a conclusion. Tonight we go out there and we steal this fucking show. Tonight we go out there and we do the damn deed. And that's what these injuries are telling me. And to see them go out like champions, like heroes. Mercedes still hung her head for just a moment when she was being carried off. Other than that, she took that like a champ. Because if this ends up being a broken ankle or a very severe sprain, I cannot tell you guys how painful that is. And she took it like a fucking champ, got back in the ring, took 2 fucking power bombs, which must have throttled that ankle. And she got carried off, and if there was tears, you couldn't really see them vividly, man. And even in the post video she put up, or the GIF, man, just she was biting down on that pain. And the first thing she thinks of is, sorry to the fans, I love you guys, I'm going to heal and be right back. That's her first statement. That's a fucking champion, man. No, I don't feel that the ladies should tone it down. If you guys feel differently, I hear you, man. You're looking out for their best interest. I get it. But if you say it's not ballet for the men and the injuries are going to occur, and when you're going at top flight, top status, when you're rocking out 100 nonstop, this is what is going to happen, and it's going to happen often. It's unfortunate. You see it with the dudes. You're seeing a lot now with the females, and it coincides with what we're seeing. The females are ticking it up many notches. I'm proud of these ladies, and we hope the best for Mercedes Mone in a speedy recovery. We hope the best in a speedy recovery for Liv Morgan and Dakota Kai. We hope Baszler and Rousey are rocking out right now as well at full throttle. We don't know exactly their clear status. They're supposed to be wrestling next Monday for the vacant championships. We believe they're going to get them. But what BC is hearing is that they're still actually recovering. So I don't know if they're fully cleared, man. That's why they're not really taking bumps. So we'll see on that status. So anyway, guys, that's the big story. We hope the best for Mercedes Mone. I will be keeping a vivid eye on any late-breaking details on what is happening with Mercedes. Now, moving on. Let me get a big swig of my Dunkin' Extra here. Hold on, guys. That's what I'm talking about. Stay amplified, BC. Nick Khan. Guys, Nick Khan. Recently, we talked on this podcast about Amazon Prime, possibly, and at this point, most likely getting SmackDown. SmackDown would be streaming. And going head-to-head most likely with Collision, because the only night we see on Amazon Prime would be for that. Wednesdays and Fridays alternates baseball. Thursday is their NFL package, and they're looking to get into the NBA game, which would most likely be on Tuesdays. Mondays, if Raw stays on Mondays, I doubt WWE would want Amazon to go head-to-head with their Monday show. SmackDown can't air on Monday, guys. That would be At the same time, Monday Night Raw is airing, so is SmackDown on Monday nights. That probably wouldn't work. So then you're really left with Saturday and Sunday, and I know they share premium live events with Saturdays now, but Sunday is still the traditional premium live event pay-per-view night. In terms of viewership, your TV show, or in this case streaming, would be much better off on Saturday. That's why Collision's going over there, not Sunday. So my point is, we're talking, Nick Khan, Fox is talking about not wanting to do a significant rights fee increase. They're pissed off. They're not even mentioning WWE in the upfronts recently. So Fox is not happy with the way Nick Khan is talking. Nick Khan is doubling and tripling down on that talk, saying we want significant rights fees on our Amazon Prime deal. I'm sorry, the Fox deal with SmackDown. And then in the same interviews, he starts praising Amazon Prime. This is done strategically, and it is pissing off Fox. Now, on the flip side, and this will affect USA Network, and I'll explain why in a minute, but their Peacock deal. Now, the Peacock deal, guys, is their streaming service deal with the premium live events, and basically the WWE Network moved to Peacock, right? That was done in 2021, or at least the deal went into effect in 2021. Now, this deal doesn't end till 2026, so they're locked into this deal. That's all of their premium live events are now on Peacock. The entire library, the WWE Network on Peacock for just over $1 billion. Now, this is where Nick Khan says he's not happy, and it's clear that he wished he milked that deal much more than they did. This is a quote from Nick Khan on the Peacock streaming deal, and I quote, "I think with that deal, which was done in March of 2021, that deal is probably the most under-market deal, in my opinion, in the entire media business right now. We did it, and we were thrilled with the partnership." I want to reread that. We did it, and we were thrilled with the partnership. Not we are, guys. Listen, Nick Khan always uses his words to have meaning. We were thrilled with the partnership. But if you look at the dollars, Wall Street Journal announced over $1 billion, or around $1 billion, over the life of the deal. It is way undervalued at this moment in time. Obviously, we have a contract, but we'll see what happens. What? What does that mean? Obviously, it's rhetorical. We know what that means. Obviously, we have a contract, but we'll see what happens. This dude is telling you he's trying to get out of this deal, guys. Maybe he has something with Endeavor that they'll pay a portion of the money in a buyback to get out of the deal. And of course, Endeavor has the money. The only way that would be done is if Endeavor actually wants to do their own streaming service and have UFC and WWE the prime focal points, which is what we are hearing from their CEO. Now, to do that, you would have to buy out the remainder of your contract. Peacock could do that. This started in 2021. If you say, all right, we'll allow you out of the deal at the end of 2024, right? Because this contract goes to 2026. Yikes! That's not good if Nick Khan wants out now. It's only 2023. This contract doesn't expire till 2026, and he wants out now. So what if Peacock said, all right, end of 2024, we let you out. Peacock gets 2021, 22, 23, and 24, 4 straight years. Lets them out 2 years early and maybe gets $250 to $300 million back. Maybe Peacock runs away like bandits, like they just robbed the bank. Keep running, don't look back. If you hear the sirens, it don't matter. Don't look back. Peacock just made out like bandits. And maybe Endeavor, Nick Khan, WWE would be okay with that. They just want out because they feel they can make even more money with the new deal. Would enough people flock to this new streaming service because UFC and WWE are on it? That's the question, man. They would really have to break numbers if you're going to give back a couple $100 million up front back to Peacock. But that's the only way they're getting out of the deal. I don't know what Nick Khan thinks he's going to do. Is he going to put on a fucking robe like he just came out of the Ministry of Hogwarts and he's going to wave his wand, expecto petroleum, and all of a sudden he's out of the Peacock deal? What does he mean? Obviously, we have a contract, but we'll see what happens. There's no seeing what happens. You're locked in to a streaming deal through 2026. And in 2023, guys, Nick Khan feels like he is undervalued, that deal is undervalued, under market by a landslide is what he's telling you. That's in 2023. If business picks up even more, 24, 25 through 26, he's going to really think they're undervalued. This is just 2 years after the deal was made, and he already thinks the deal is shit. And he's locked in till 2026. Khan says, and I quote, WWE has doubled its audience since the deal was signed. But that's actually false. They have not. Business is booming, no doubt. They're liquidating assets. It's not just $1 billion they got from Peacock. It's obviously the $55 nearly million a show that they do in Saudi twice a year. That's for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, in the billions when it's all said and done. And they structure the new four-show deal after the initial deal. It'll be into the billions. That's what they're getting from Saudi Arabia. Fox gave them over $1 billion for SmackDown. 3/4 from the USA Network. That's another story I'll get to in a minute. But all of this money, of course, they're pulling in record revenue. But to say that your audience has doubled, that's actually false. Coming out of the pandemic, of course, people are going to shows more. That's already starting to show the adverse, right? It's going in the opposite way. Whether it's a Disney World, a Universal Studios, where they're starting to see the crowds not be what they were last year, for instance. You're starting to see that with crowd levels at pro wrestling events or at the damn circus or Disney on Ice. It's not what it was a year or 2 years ago. The only metric you can say you doubled your audience would be the ratings, right? And that's showing that the audience is being cut down by the week. WWE RAW, the flagship, without Monday Night Football competition, is in the 1.7s, for instance. SmackDown has just lost 400,000 viewers from last month's WrestleMania audience. They're down to a 2.0, nearly flat, 2.0. So your audience did not double. There's no indication that your audience doubled. Your live events are not showing that. Your metrics through ratings are not showing that. Your revenue does not show a doubled audience. So I don't know what McNumbnuts is talking about here. No disrespect. But if you're going to make a comment like that, that's a McNumbnuts comment. Your audience has doubled. That's why we believe this is undervalued. That's not true. You're just liquidating and you're making really good deals right now. And stupid people are paying ridiculous prices. Because he's saying it's undervalued. I think paying over $1 billion for this for 5 to 6 years is overvalued. WWE. They're just really shiesty, really good car salesmen. Nick Khan, Vincent Kennedy, Paul Levesque. Paul Heyman's got nothing on them when it comes to selling this company, man, and really pimping it out. They're just really bad car salesmen, which makes them really good, right? When somebody says that's a really bad car salesman, it's because they're so fucking shiesty and shady, dude. They don't take no for an answer, and you're walking away with a car you didn't want, with a warranty that you didn't want to pay for, that was way over fucking priced, and that dude just got his commission. So Nick Khan is doing some financial contractual gymnastics right now, and he's trying to find loopholes to get the fuck out. And this dude's a former lawyer turned agent turned WWE CEO, so he knows how to get out of shit. And when he ends that comment, that quote, with "obviously we have a contract, but we'll see what happens," this tells me that not only could SmackDown be off of Fox for the next deal, not only could the streaming service not even last its full 2026 duration, you could see WWE Network and the premium live events turn back to pay-per-views for all we know. But also, this affects the USA Network and Monday Night Raw because, guys, Peacock is owned by NBC Universal, which is owned by Comcast. They all own USA Network. And USA Network is going to be asked to levy up a huge increase in fee revenue for the next deal. The problem is the USA Network is going to turn around and say, what the fuck? When we started this latest deal, you were at 2.4. Now you're in the 1.7s. That's without NFL competition. And you want us to pay more money? especially if the relationship with NBC Universal Peacock is already severed, then the USA Network, who again is NBC Universal Peacock Comcast, they are not going to want to do that business deal. And you could see Monday Night Raw off of USA Network. Would they even remain on Monday nights? Nick Khan has said he is willing to take Monday Night Raw to a new night if need be. Nick Khan is playing a hardball. Nick Khan is a businessman to the fucking 10th degree. Sometimes I feel Vincent Kennedy, as ruthless as he is, has nothing on Nicholas Khan. Whew, that's a lot to digest, I know, guys, but that is a massive story. We've been talking about SmackDown moving nights and a new deal, possibly Amazon Prime, Nick Khan and WWE not getting along with Fox right now because of these rights fees increases. USA Network, there's been a stalemate in conversations with them for their future, and now the latest on how Nick Khan is talking about Peacock. And you gotta believe Peacock, NBC, Comcast, Universal is not happy with what Nick Khan is saying right now publicly. Guys, I want to wrap up this podcast with a massive story. All of these stories have been, and I thank you guys so much for joining BC for the better part of this whole entire hour of your day. I hope to be back with you guys later this evening, as I said. But a big superstar might be returning to WWE tonight to be the mystery tag team partner with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. The Scottish, I don't know what you call him, warrior, psychopath. Every week for a while, this guy had a new nickname. Drew McIntyre. Big discussion and a lot of mixed feelings on if Drew McIntyre was even going to come back to WWE. Is he going to wait out his contract, show up in AEW? Stories that Drew is upset with WWE. BC broke on this very podcast. I broke the news that he is absolutely coming back sooner rather than later, guys. Imminent. And I told you guys he is not showing up to AEW. I also told you guys his contract doesn't even end until after next year's WrestleMania. So I broke all that news to you guys. And here we are. The possibility, guys. It's not concrete, not set in stone, but there's a massive possibility he comes back tonight. Maybe they want him for Saudi Arabia Night of Champions on Saturday. Tonight is the go-home show of Monday Night Raw for Night of Champions. But Drew McIntyre could be the mystery partner for Sami and Kevin. We thought it was going to be like Scooter McGee, Matt Riddle. Now, I don't know if he's SmackDown or Raw. I'm still trying to digest and comprehend who was drafted to where. But I wouldn't put it past this company, right? They would just give Scooter McGee a visitor's pass like they did to Paul Heyman recently. But we thought it was going to be something stupid like that. But the reason we believe it could be Drew McIntyre, guys, WWE recently put up a question. I think it was their WWE.com or one of their social media sites. They put up a question. And it just asks the WWE, as they call Universe, who should be Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens' partner tonight against Imperium? Drew McIntyre retweeted, I believe it was. So this was must have been their social media. Or maybe he got that and tweeted that out. But I believe it was a retweet of this question. And he liked it or something. Something like that. But it was definitely like a retweet. So he put it up on his social. And then Drew McIntyre instantly took it off. But not before many people saw that. Many people were able to catch that Drew McIntyre had retweeted this thing. And again, I'll check the initial report, but possibly even liked it. And then it was immediately taken off by Drew McIntyre. So did he accidentally spoil his return? And he thought it would be just to generate the buzz. So when he returns, because a lot of wrestlers will tell you, it doesn't matter how big they are, how over they are. They always say, man, when I'm gone for a while, I always think, are they going to remember me? Are they going to care enough to give me a reaction? Maybe Drew was pumping that up a little bit. And then he thought, oh shit, did I just spoil it? And Drew McIntyre ended up immediately detweeted. So he retweeted and detweeted. But enough people were able to catch it. Or was this a massive accident and Drew McIntyre is just scrolling through WWE social and he accidentally man, I don't know. Is that easy to do accidentally like that? I'm not sure. I don't spend my time like that scrolling through social media. You guys know that. It's not a BC thing. But so I don't know how easy it is to accidentally do. Maybe, but Drew is keeping up to date on all the WWEings if that's the case. But I thought that was a massive, massive story to send over to you guys, man. In case that happens, a little bit of a spoiler there. And of course, if you saw the headline in the thumbnail, you already know that this was a spoiler of that. So if you clicked on the podcast, you probably wanted that spoiler, I'm guessing, right? So there you go. And that's, again, maybe, because now that is probably going to make its rounds, maybe they take Drew off of that match. And they do something else because now the surprise is it ruined? I don't know. Would it have been a surprise? Do you want to see Drew kind of come back as what we were hoping? What we first heard was he's coming back as a diabolical heel. And that's how let Drew be a heel. Let him, when he gets his next championship, let fans have to fucking turn their heads and go, oh, this is a big deal. Not just go, oh, nah, it's Drew, whatever, he's not booked properly. No, let him come back as a diabolical fucking heel and rip shit up, collect championships in the process. But whether he wins titles or not, let him fuck shit up. I want to see it, or maybe he shows up tonight and turns on Sammy, who knows. But I want to see him beating the fuck out of guys like Owens and Sammy as a heel, right? That's fresh. That's organic. That interest, or at least piques the interest of somebody like BC. And we heard reports that that's what they were talking about. I even heard reports he was supposed to be the first ever world champion, not a Sethington, not a Cody Rhodes. Well, now we know it's not going to be Cody anyway, Sethington or AJ Styles. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it is Drew tonight, man. But that was an interesting either botch or he was trying to hype up his own return tonight. Drew McIntyre. Speaking of tonight, I got the Raw preview for you. It is coming to you live from Hershey, Pennsylvania. There's going to be a contract signing tonight between Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus for their Night of Champions match. We're also hearing that's going to last another month afterwards, and then Becky is supposedly supposed to, there you go, BC. Supposedly supposed to go into a big feud for the summer with Rhea Ripley, but Becky and Trish is supposed to go another month into June. But their contract signing for Night of Champions for this upcoming Saturday, that is tonight, Becky and Trish Stratus. Of course, Corey Graves is going to have part 2 of his sit-down interview with Sethington Rollins. Sethington is filming a movie, Captain America, I believe. So, and there's nothing he could do with AJ now anyway. AJ's over on the blue brand unless he has a visitor's pass, because that's what we're doing these days. There's nothing you can do, and that's why this is just a weird thing, allowing SmackDown to be in this. And we don't think AJ's going to win anyway, because they're setting up a feud between AJ and Grayson Waller on SmackDown, and simultaneously AJ Styles versus Karrion Kross on SmackDown. So where does this fit in? A championship? I don't know. And Sethington with a title does nothing for BC. I'm just having flashbacks of just a few months ago when he held the United States Championship and nobody cared about it. It was flat. The audience didn't give a shit. It didn't do anything for the title. The title didn't do anything for Sethington. And now we're just going to give him a bigger title, a participation trophy, runners-up championship. I don't know about giving this to Sethington. Maybe I would give it to AJ Styles. But then you have 2 world champions on SmackDown. This makes no sense. But Sethington is in a sit-down interview, part 2 with Corey Graves tonight. Rhea Ripley and Natty are supposed to come face-to-face. I don't know what in what. Rhea Ripley and Natty for the SmackDown Women's Championship for Monday Night Raw. Think about that. That's how fucked up this whole title situation is. Because they just did this draft without thinking it through. They said, oh, we'll just swap the titles down the line. And then they received huge backlash from fans like you guys, and then BC especially, critics like BC who dissect this shit and said, wait, we don't want just a Halloween candy swap, right? This isn't just, I'll give you Hershey, you give me a Kit Kat. These are championship titles. So then they go, all right, well, we won't swap them. We'll just keep having these ladies defend the other brand's title on their new brand. So now Bianca Belair is defending the Raw Women's Championship as a SmackDown competitor against a SmackDown competitor, Asuka, but defending the Raw title. And Rhea Ripley is defending the SmackDown Women's Championship as a Raw competitor against Raw's Natty. This makes no fucking sense. And they're going to have a stare-off. Nothing about this is interesting. You guys know that. Last week, what did they do in this storyline? There is no storyline. Rhea Ripley walked up to Natty backstage and said, "Stay out of my way." And Natty looked at her like, "Damn it, okay." So what are they going to stare off tonight? And what are they going to do? Are they going to have a game of Monopoly tonight? Is there going to be a game of Twister between Rhea Ripley and Natty? A bake-off? Maybe a staring contest? That's what we're doing a lot, right? SmackDown. AJ Styles and Grayson Waller, they stare at each other. Solo and Roman are staring at each other. All on Friday night, all you got was stare downs. Who else stared down each other, guys? Who else stared at each other, man? Yeah, let me go back here. I know there was more stare-offs. Oh, yeah, that's right. Bianca Belair. I got it here in my notes. Bianca Belair gets misted in the eyes of Asuka. Asuka literally spits in her face twice within 2 fucking weeks. And when she gets spit in her face, and Asuka doesn't even run away, she just laughs. She spits in Bianca's face and laughs. And what does Bianca Belair do? She stares at her. Like, "Oh, stop spitting on me." Who would do that in real life? You would chase after them. You would break that motherfucker. No, everything on Friday night was staring at one another because nobody creatively wanted to actually get creative. So is Natty and Rhea going to stare at one another? Are they going to get physical, and are we going to care? This is a filler match. It is clear, right? And no harm, no foul. I get it. It's Night of Champions, Saudi Arabia. You feed somebody to Rhea Ripley. I understand, guys. But damn, I just wish there was some interest in it. Rhea and Natty. And speaking of stare-offs, Cody Rhodes is supposed to go face-to-face with Brock Lesnar. Is Brock Lesnar really going to show up to work? Are they going to stare at each other? Are we going to find out any answers to the questions we have? Like, I don't know. Why did Brock attack Cody in the first place 2 months ago when there was no fucking title on the line? This is the go-home show tonight for Night of Champions. Believe it or not, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's 5 days away, guys. Not even 5 nights, because it's in the middle of the day for those East Coast anyway, West Coast especially, morning. I think you guys are getting at 9 a.m. California time. We are 5 days away from Night of Champions, man. How fast that approach. Seems like Backlash was just yesterday, which basically it was just a few weeks ago. So this is the go-home show. They're going to have to bring it. They're going to have to get their ratings out of the 1-7 somehow. There's no football competition. I don't care about the basketball shit, guys. I understand. Playoffs? I understand. But when you are around for decades and the best you can pull off, going into a pay-per-view is a 1-7? That's a massive issue. That's bigger than just playoffs. And if you're wondering, tonight is an elimination game for the Lakers. The Nuggets versus the Lakers. If the Lakers lose, and LeBron James and the Lakers, if they lose this game, they're out of the playoffs. So it's massive. That's not a mulligan. That's not an excuse. I'm not going to let you off the line on this, off the hook. You have to deliver your best product, your best foot forward tonight. If the ratings implode, it's because of WWE and WWE alone. My name is BC Amplified. This has been the Amplified, the Amped Up podcast for Monday, May 22nd, 2023. You, the Amplified unit, are the very best in this community. You, the ones. All the rest are far distant twos. Top guy, I'm out. Until next time. And there will be a next time. Hopefully later this evening. BC saying check you.